Hello, and welcome to the Mothers of All Crime. This is a podcast where we deep dive into mothers involved in infamous crimes and scandals. I'm Monica, and this is Crystal.
Our mother this week is the none other than Janelle Brown from Sister Wives, wife number 2.
Wife number 2 of our little series we have.
I know, my favorite series so far. I guess our first as well, but
I know. And Janelle, I feel like I need to put it on record that I feel is like the most normal wife of the 4. I know that's terrible
totally.
to say, but
my first note is my favorite wife.
I love her. I totally agree.
She is beyond my favorite, like always has been my favorite. I just feel like she's a steady Eddie. She is so calm, cool, collected about stuff. She's very reasonable and fair, and she's no drama. Although, I mean, she's been involved in some drama, but I just don't feel like she's usually the cause or the incidents. And I feel like she's always on the right side of history, ultimately.
And again, we obviously don't know what happened earlier on, but I feel like from the show and some of the episodes, you see her truly trying to like consistently work on herself and like be the best version of herself that she can be and be the best mom that she can be. And I give her a lot of credit because being in that family dynamic is not, I can't even imagine how complicated that is. Plus raising your 6 kids, plus being involved with the other kids. And I don't know. I feel like she always tries to work on those dynamics with the wives and the children, and she does the best she can, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I think that she is someone who likes to learn and grow, which I always like and admire. And she, I think, it seemed the most invested in the polygamous lifestyle and their religion for most of it, which I also, even though I don't agree with her views, I respect that she feels so strongly and believes so deeply. I feel like her dedication to the religion and the family are admirable.
Yeah, and unlike
are not.
Yeah, unlike our first mom, Mary, she also wasn't born into like a polygamous life. She was raised mainstream Mormon in Utah, which is really interesting that she went the like opposite way.
Yeah,
I feel like we hear a lot of like the other way around.
Totally, where people leave fundamentalism and become mainstream. I guess it happens the other way too, but definitely you don't hear a lot about it. But we could talk about Janelle from the very beginning. She did grow up mainstream Mormon, and she met Adam Barber and actually was getting him to convert to mainstream Mormon when she met his family, who are a very well-known polygamous family, and met his sister, Mary Barber. So kind of brings us to our first scandal.
I know. So, and that's what I think is so funny is like, we talked about Mary, and obviously she was raised in a polygamous family herself. So obviously her brother Adam would be born into a polygamous family. And Janelle, like you said, was trying to bring him mainstream. So clearly he was kind of on that fence. But I guess if you're willing to date someone from that history, you have to be at least open-minded enough to, she got married to this man, that you're getting married into a polygamous family, more or less. So she definitely from day
agree.
one had the
She's
open
very
mind.
open-minded. Yeah, definitely.
And
which I'd say is like not typical.
Yeah, I think it would be like, I don't know. I'd put myself in that circumstance that if I started dating a guy and then found out that he was from a polygamous home, like I wouldn't say I would rule it out, but I instantly would kind of be like, all right, so what's your plan? Like I have questions.
I would be nervous about it.
Kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely would be nervous about it. I don't know that I would be as open-minded as she was. And it seems like she loved his family.
I know. I really wonder though too if like she was like trying to bring him to mainstream, but I wonder if she also like from the beginning was considering like, well, I married this man, like if he takes a second wife, I think I'd be okay with it. Like, I wonder if she like was like this far before she started living polygamy herself. That would be really interesting to ask her.
Wow. That just made me think Janelle as a first wife would be such a different thing to watch.
Right.
And very interesting. Hard to imagine. But it's kind of like Robin. She was married in the faith, but they never took on other wives. But she also could have been a first wife.
Right. Which is a weird
it's definitely a different
shift
dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously,
Definitely.
we kind of skipped ahead. She did not stay with Adam.
Yeah, she did not stay with Adam.
They weren't together all that long. What was it? Only like 2 years or something?
I think they were only
88
married
to
for a
90.
year. And then they were like in the process of divorcing for a long time though, because they had bought a house and they had multiple cars. And from my understanding, he was like not showing up to court. And he wasn't there when their divorce was finalized. You don't have to be there, but I think they try to get you to be there. So I think it was kind of dragged out divorce. I don't think that they were in a happy marriage for more than a year. I think it was very short.
So maybe it was like married for a year and then divorced for a year. So they had, on paper, it's that 2 year gap.
Yeah, or like separated in the process of divorcing. It was not quick. They didn't have kids, but they definitely had assets. And I don't know if he was contesting it, but I don't think Janelle filed for divorce. I think she was the one that wanted to get divorced in that situation.
Yeah.
And she already knew Kody.
Yeah. Well, she never also really publicly said why they got divorced. She always kept that buttoned, right. Which I have a lot of respect for, because I think a lot of people are quick to put blame on someone and air dirty laundry. Mm-hmm. And I think she was just kind of like, it's nobody's business. It was our situation. It didn't work out. Because when you're together for that long and you're raised Mormon, you're taught to have children and like build your family. And she clearly can have children. And the fact that she didn't, I think, is kind of saying something. So it's too bad, but I'd be very curious what actually happened.
I know. She was always pretty gracious about him. There were references to her ex-husband on the show, but they almost never talked about him being Mary's brother. And I just know that it had to be so weird for Mary that your brother's ex-wife that he had this contentious divorce with is now living in your house, sleeping with your husband. I just can't wrap my brain around it, honestly.
Because like her and Mary became friends. And like, they built a relationship, and then she ended up marrying Kody, which, like you said, not only is it your ex-sister-in-law, but it's your friend. Like, it's not like this random person coming in. It's someone that you've built a relationship with over years.
Janelle was also their landlord at one point for Kody and Mary. They rented a house from her. Mm-hmm. They've had a lot of different dynamics with her, and when she had gotten divorced, she was working at an employment agency, and she also helped Kody get jobs. They hung out a lot. It was like they were all best friends, essentially. And then it seems like when Janelle actually got married, it was a super short courtship with Kody. It was his first time at polygamy, and almost immediately her and Mary are not getting along at all. And it's not shocking to me.
No. Because, I mean, if you think about, the exact date, it was like a 3-year period between her divorce being official and her being married to Kody. That's not a lot of time to, like, try and create a new relationship. Because if you have this friendship and this familial relationship with her, there's not a lot of time to, like, build a new one when next thing you know, it's your sister wife. Like,
yeah. I almost think, though, that maybe Janelle was a rebound for Kody, because they had previously, like, him and Mary had been courting a much younger girl who I think was 18 and before Janelle, and that kind of blew up right before they were supposed to get married. So I think that he was just sort of not settling for Janelle, but she was there. And he was like, oh, well, maybe that would be easy, fast.
Maybe.
And yeah. Maybe. Oh, and we also need to mention the other connection that Kody and Janelle have, because not only is Janelle Kody's sister-in-law, she's also his stepsister. Because Kody's dad is married to, well, you know, they've both since passed, but Janelle's mother was very concerned that she was going to be entering into a polygamous cult. So she went with her to visit Kody and Mary at Kody's dad's farm and ended up courting and marrying Wynn Brown, Kody's father, and becoming one of his multiple wives. So
I would have
kind of
lost
incestuous, really. Absolutely.
But,
I mean, thanks, Mom, for just totally stepping in the middle of what I had going on here.
what a bizarre relationship. Like, listen, sometimes the heart wants what the heart wants, but that's just bizarre. Like, there's no, because again, it's not like she was raised in this or either. And Kody's parents converted too. Like, none of these people were like conditioned into believing this. It just happened. So,
and
I
her
don't know.
mother had converted to LDS as an adult as well. She was not raised Mormon at all.
Mm-hmm.
She converted to LDS as an adult and then became a fundamentalist Mormon. So she was not brainwashed or indoctrinated since birth, that's for sure. She made a bunch of decisions herself, which I guess is good, but the decisions are odd to me.
They are odd. There's no better way. It's just odd. And I mean, on a positive, what a easy way to visit your parents. Like, you could just have two birds, one stone.
Absolutely. I mean, for Janelle's kids, their grandparents live together. So that's easy.
That's so complicated to try to explain. No, we're not sisters, but Grandma and Grandpa are married. What a confusing thing to have to try to explain to like a 3-year-old.
Right. They'll be like, we are step siblings, sure, but we weren't raised together, so it's not weird. It's like, no,
yeah,
it's
I do
weird.
feel like we should mention that it happened after Janelle and Kody got together. Like, it wasn't like that's how Janelle and Kody met. So I just want to put that disclaimer.
No, but they were in the initial stages of courting. They were not like engaged or anything yet. Cheryl just swooped in there and immediately married Kody's dad before Janelle and Kody got married, which is hard to imagine how they planned any of this out. And I can't imagine attending this wedding ceremony with my future father-in-law marrying my mom.
Yeah. Just weird.
It's very polygamous family wreath is what it is. Everyone's related to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, once
real.
Janelle and Kody did get married, they had 6 kids. And she actually has the first child of the family, even though she is the second wife, which we briefly mentioned during Mary's episode.
Yeah, I mean, the birth order is important for this family and for most families, but definitely for this one.
Yeah, and
Logan did a lot.
Oh, you just took the words out of my mouth. I'm like, Logan really had a lot of responsibility in this family. I think a lot of Janelle's kids did. There was a lot of responsibility that got put on those older kids. Not even I guess, intentionally. It's just out of necessity. And I think as you see them go through the years of the show, they're the ones that are a little bit more reserved compared to the other kids, where Logan, you pretty much never heard of. Like, he did his couple years in the show, but the minute he moved out of that house, you almost never saw him on anything. And it's interesting that her kids kind of stepped away versus other kids kind of stepped into it.
There was definitely a period for a few years on the show where her kids were hardly featured. I guess except Savannah, you would see her from time to time, but she's never really had like big speaking roles. She was also the baby.
Yeah, she was the baby of her 6.
She was so little when it started. Definitely. Most of her kids, though, were born at the same time as Christine's kids. I think when you have so many little kids, and everyone's scrambling financially, I think that not that they're getting neglected, but they're not being hovered over, that's for sure. So I think Janelle's kids, especially because she worked so long and because Kody was doing whatever Kody does, I think they had to kind of learn to be more self-sufficient emotionally and just practically. They didn't have like a doting mom at home all the time. Even though Janelle clearly loves them a lot, she's not as maternal as, let's say, Christine.
Yeah, but I also think that's one thing that they really has come to light later on, that Janelle, like you said, she was the breadwinner of that family for the majority of the family. And Christine was the mother, and she would stay home and she took care of all the kids. And that dynamic really helped. That's one of the positives that people do say about polygamy is you have someone like Janelle who has admitted she likes to work, she likes to bring in money, she likes to be that position. And Christine, she likes being a mom and she likes taking care of kids. And I think there are times that obviously no matter which role you're going to have, there's going to be resentment and regret and all of these other emotions. But that dynamic worked where she was able to go do those things. But then again, you have Logan, who she admitted many times throughout the seasons, he was the one getting up her younger kids, getting them ready for school, making breakfast, and sending them onto the bus. Not Janelle, not Christine, like Logan.
Not Kody. Also, why is Kody unable to get these kids ready in the morning?
I know. I honestly just
irate.
Forget he exists. Like,
I know, me too. And they separated multiple times.
As they should. He's a terrible father
Kody and Janelle,
a terrible husband.
Yeah. In the early years, like, there was a couple of times where they separated, where Janelle would take off to her mom's house, which was also Kody's dad's house, or she literally stayed behind when they all moved to another state. And Kody was just doing whatever he was doing. It doesn't seem like it affected the day-to-day operations with the kids at all. And it's really sad to me because I feel like in these later seasons, Janelle seems so heartbroken that Kody's not being a good dad. But was he ever really a good dad? It doesn't. Yeah. I feel like he was maybe fun and he roughhoused a lot.
He went downhill because I do feel in the beginning episodes for the first couple seasons, he was a lot more involved. By the most recent seasons, I think he picked his favorites and then he went from there. And I think in the beginning, there were so many of the kids at the similar ages, it was easy for him to be involved because I think they didn't have opinion. They were little kids. I think as the kids got older and started challenging him, that's when he stopped being involved because he didn't like to be threatened. That's speculation. But
yeah, I think favorites really hits the nail on the head there because I think for a while, Janelle's kids were his favorites. She has the bulk of the boys and she wasn't as emotionally needy as Christine. So I think for a while, it was fun for him to be hanging out with Janelle's kids and wrestling with them and doing sport stuff. And as they got older, I mean, which we'll talk about for sure, I mean, he just did not like when his sons became adult men and would buck at him and would accuse him of not treating their mother very well. He could not possibly deal with that.
Yeah. Or just not wanting to live the life that I think he pictured for them. But I think you were right with the wrestling comment. I don't even know if you meant to mean it this way, but Kody constantly talks about how he was this high school wrestler and was super good. First of all, way to never leave high school. But
I know
Janelle's sons were very athletic. All of them were. And I think it was Hunter who ended up becoming a champion. And I think that was one of the most proud moments that we've seen Kody throughout all of it. And then Garrison also being involved with wrestling. I think it was something that he was proud of her kids for, that other kids and other families weren't being a part of. So it's harder to relate quote, to those kids versus the boys. It's easy.
I definitely agree with that. I think that he could see himself in the way they acted and their personalities, maybe because they were very immature, and he related to that as well. But I think as they started to develop their own identities, he really didn't like that as much. At least that's how it appears to me.
Yeah. But, and not to mention, like you said, like these boys had no problem sticking up for their mom, which I really admire because they would always do it. There were times that they were snippy, don't get me wrong, but most of the time I felt like they did it in a very respectful way. And they tried to approach the conversations with any parent very respectfully, regardless of what child this was, including Maddie, which is one of her daughters, was always very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
And to raise children like that when Kody clearly is not really around all that much. Janelle's working a ton, but she still has successfully raised very kind, respectful children. It's really just a testament to her that her kids have turned out pretty good.
I think so too. I think that she led by example in a lot of ways in being respectful and being calm and being ordered, and the values that she has with education and with religion. I think that she really did try to instill what she felt like were good values in her kids, and that was a priority to her. I think that they've also seen her be very fair in her relationships with the other adults and have appreciated how closely she stayed with Christine. And I think it's not a coincidence that the kids seem to really line up with Janelle in terms of Robin and Kody. Like when they were feeling rejected by Robin and Kody, Janelle took it as a personal insult as well. Like, you're rejecting my children, our children. Like, that's unacceptable. Yeah. Because I don't think Kody's issues during COVID, which is like where a lot of issues came up for everybody, but I don't think that his problem was ever really with Janelle, or really that she was doing anything wrong. It was her kids, but you're gonna stand with your children because you love them, and Kody was just like unable to tap into how she was feeling about it because he doesn't value his kids in the way that Janelle seems to value her kids. And they have mutual kids, so it shouldn't even be talked about like this, but I just feel like Kody has separated it so much. And everything's Janelle's kids, as opposed to our kids.
Absolutely. And I think COVID was a huge divide for this branch of the family, because Kody was very much, these are the rules that you have to comply with or get out, basically. And yes, some of her children had moved out of the house, but like one of them was mandatory employment. Like they had to go to work. One of them's in the military. One of them, like, they had all these other responsibilities. Don't get me wrong, some of them were just because I want to see my friends, which isn't valid, but going to work, doing your job, going to school, those are valid things that you might have to leave the house for. And poor Savannah got the wrong end of the deal because Kody basically threw his hands up. Like, well, this one child's going to disrespect me, so I'm just going to disown all of your children. Poor Savannah's just sitting there like, little girl just wants to hang out with her dad, and he's throwing a fit like a child.
And they live in the same town. It's horrible. It's horrible. And all his arguments, like, you know, my children, I have to put them first until they're 18 or 21. None of that applied to Savannah. He just kind of forgot about her. Yeah. And I was just rewatching season 18, like I said, and he doesn't even call her at Christmas. He doesn't even acknowledge her at Christmas. It's so sad.
Yeah. No, I think he pretty much got to a point where he decided that those were just not his kids anymore. Those are Janelle's kids. And his kids were the ones that were living with Robin. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I know.
But
it's super, super sad.
Yeah. And I think you're right, though. Janelle really I think she has a college diploma. She values hard work, and all of her kids kind of followed in that with education and employment. And she is also probably one of the wives that I feel like is the most down to earth with her business ventures, both with the family and outside the family. Because so like she went into accounting. A lot of the show we saw her as a real estate agent. She obviously was involved with Sister Wives Closet because it was a little bit of all of the sister wives were in there. But she never was like super into Sister Wives Closet. I think she also was kind of like what we talked about. Like it just seemed like a lot, and she didn't seem to get it. She's like not on board with what was being sold, the price that was being sold, the overhead that was involved. You could see she was just like, I want to be supportive. I just can't. Like,
well, if you can do basic math, you know that business was not sustainable and it was not going to pay 5 people to have salaries. Like, it's a hobby and it's not a business. And so why would 5 adults be working full-time towards a hobby? I have lots of hobbies that don't make money, but I'm not going to try to recruit other people to give up all of their weekends to go to craft fairs and sell this very overpriced, ugly jewelry. I think she also, I mean, she could tell it was very ugly. It's not like she's the fashion icon, but she dresses the cutest of any of them, and she knows that this Sister Wives Closet stuff is hideous. And you can tell by her face. Like, ooh.
And I think
$300 like, for that?
Right, going to a craft fair and then selling a necklace for $300. I'm not buying a $300 necklace at a craft fair. I'm sorry. I'm barely spending $300 at like a reputable jewelry store.
She would say like, oh, there's necklaces at the stand next to us for $1.50. I don't think anyone's going to be stopping here.
Craziness.
Super crazy.
Since more recently, she actually went into business with her daughter Maddie, and currently has a life coach and health coaching business called Strive with Janelle, which I think out of the kind of life coach avenues of the sister wives, hers seems the most like down to earth and most reasonable, very consistent with Janelle. Because for a 45-minute consultation directly with one of them, it's $75. I don't feel like that for a consultation like introduction with any kind of life coach or health coach. I don't think it's a little expensive. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think that's pretty standard.
I think so too. I'd be curious to know what advice they're actually giving or what the advice is about, but I'm not saying I wouldn't spend $75 to find out. I maybe would.
Yeah, I don't know. She did get licensed as a health coach, which again, at least if you're going to be giving advice to people, at least she like went and sought out the education in order to do so. I do think it was also coupled though with this Plexix pink drink or however you say it.
I think it's Plexus.
Is it Plexus? Plexus?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's that pink drink that they say is like a dietary supplement or whatever it is. This is the one time that I'm like, come on, Janelle, you know better. Like,
I know.
This MLM.
Well, I mean, you gotta think about it from. Well, I mean, like we said with Mary, it kind of makes sense when you're a minor celebrity to do an MLM, because when you're at the top of the pyramid, you're going to make more money. And I think Maddie is a big deal in Plexus. So
Maddie's in it, Janelle's in it, Christine's in it. There's a lot of the Brown family that's in it. So I get it. But come on, girl.
Yeah. Although it just makes me think about, like, I don't know if you've seen McKelty and Tony recently, but they've lost a lot of weight and they're saying it's because of Plexus. And it's like, you guys have been slinging that stuff for years and you looked exactly the same. And come on, it's not the Plexus.
Right.
Like, just admit you're taking Ozempic. It's not a big deal. Everyone's on Ozempic, but like, don't tell me it's Plexus. Like, that's to me wrong. to sell like
Yeah.
a lie like that. Like, I don't believe that that's 100% because of Plexus. Maybe you're drinking it, but
Maybe you're
can you really
drinking
credit
that
your
and
weight
nothing
loss to
else.
that? Yeah.
I've just
I
given
just
up
don't
food.
I don't buy it.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
either.
I mean, I'm
Absolutely not.
personally pretty skeptical of any type of life coach or a health coach that's not like a doctor. I just feel like it's people who don't have their lives figured out that just tell you a bunch of inspirational quotes. But again, I probably would still get a consultation with Janelle. So I'm nothing if not a hypocrite too.
I think part of
But
like being a life coach is also just like being a sounding board for people. I think sometimes like
yeah,
it takes a lot of people are very skeptical of therapy. It's basically like a way to talk about your problems, not to your friends, but not going to therapy. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's how I
yeah, that's
can
true.
see how people could get pulled
But
into it for sure.
sure. I feel like that's kind of the danger to it though, because I don't think it's like a good replacement for therapy with someone who's
Oh,
I mean, you could take an
absolutely.
internet class to be a life coach or a health coach, but that's not the same as like getting a degree and getting licensed to be a therapist where you have a lot of checks
Yeah.
and balances and people like watching you perform. Like it's very lawless. It's very like unmoderated.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, good for her. If she can like turn her fame into something else that makes money, good for her. I don't
Listen,
really
if
have a
I'm
problem
gonna
with it. I
take
just
life advice from of the two moms that we have so far, both of which do life coaching, I'm picking Janelle.
100%, 100%. She seems much happier than Mary does, which I'm. If you can be content, like that's something I would like to learn
Right?
and could maybe benefit from.
Well, maybe you need to talk to Janelle. It's only $75 for 45 minutes.
Maybe I will. Although I've seen some of her cameos and they're very brief, so I don't know how long the $75 is going to get me. She was just like, I saw one the other day and it's just like, happy birthday. I hope you have a happy birthday. Happy birthday. And it's like, that's the whole cameo.
Yeah, I think it was
But again,
Garrison
if you,
on TikTok, and he had one on with her, and she was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I hate this. What do I have to say? She was just, again, just a very real person. I'm like, you want me to do what? Like,
yeah, I think that's what it is that Janelle is a real person and she has never been swept up by the fame. She's never like thought that she was perfect. She's never been elitist in any way. She's very real, very down to
she's
earth.
pretty much stayed consistent too. I feel like every other
Yeah.
one of the wives changed, like the more famous the show got.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Janelle just stayed very consistent from an outside perspective, at least.
Yeah, Kody just doesn't like her anymore, but that's because he's changed, not because Janelle has changed. Because I agree, I think
Right.
she's been very consistent and very loyal,
Oh,
and that has
absolutely. That
gotten
woman,
her.
tolerance of a
Yeah,
saint.
that has gotten her pretty much nothing being loyal to this family. I feel like she has just gotten screwed over financially in so many ways, and it's so messed up. Because I was just watching season 18 again, like I've had it on in the background for the last couple days to just kind of like get into the mode of talking about sister wives, and the whole thing is she and Kody are breaking up, but she's terrified because she's so financially tied in to the family
Hmm.
and she doesn't have her own assets. So like Coyote Pass, that money pit piece of land that's like not built on still, Coyote
Yeah, even
Pass,
today.
her
Yeah,
name's on
to this
it,
day.
Robin. Yeah, Christine was smart and got out of that. But
What is
I think
so,
that Janelle has owned a lot.
oh yeah. And can you imagine though, like, think about what she, again, she's been the breadwinner, what she has supported over
Yeah.
the 20, 30 years that they've been together. What is it? It was 93 to 22. Um, the amount of income that she has brought in, assets, distributions, and wealth, more or less. Can you imagine if she had
Hmm.
kept that, where she would be now? Like,
Oh, I
she
know.
hustled for that family and they barely squeaked by. I can't even imagine how well off her and her children would be if Kody didn't squander all of it. Because he just spent, he has so many random toys and things that he definitely spent some of that
Paintings.
money ridiculously that she worked hard for.
Yeah, even the sale of her Vegas house, she gave half the proceeds to Robin to buy her house. And that's never been repaid and will never be repaid.
Never.
Not to mention your
But
6 kids have been working for free on this show for their entire lives and are
they
not
did
living
they
in luxury. Like,
I thought that they got cuts when they became adults. Didn't they?
I
I
don't
feel like I
think
saw
so.
something about Maddie getting a cut when she turned 18,
I
but I
don't
could be
think
wrong.
so. I think Kody has made some lump sum payments to the kids over the years, but I don't think that the kids got paid. I think that the contracts were renegotiated a couple of times, and it was originally that each adult was getting their own paycheck, and then at some point it was renegotiated that the family was just getting paid, and they took like a substantial pay cut to keep the show going, basically. So they make
Mm-hmm.
less money on the show than they used to, which is also ironic because it's had a very good couple of seasons. I wonder if they've renegotiated it.
I did see something that they once, like, Christine left the family, it was all renegotiated so that, and now all the moms are separate and Kody is separate. Um, or like him and Robin are together maybe, and then the three other wives, because Christine definitely made some kind of comment. I don't know where it was because now I wish I saved it. Basically saying that her money is her money from the show,
Mm,
which as it should
yeah.
be.
I mean, definitely Christine should be getting paid, but the kids should also be getting paid. And even like the children before they were 18 should have been having money put in trust for them. And I think that that's going to be something that we'll see that'll change with reality TV for kids. Like, I think that it's going to be more like child stars, which, not that they always get their fair share of the money that they've earned either, but at least they get some of it. Whereas I just
Yeah.
Googled it, and what came up first is that McKelty has said that her and Tony are not paid for filming even the births of her children that were on the show. They weren't paid for that,
And
which
this is
is
what's interesting
bizarre.
because there's a lot of child like actors who get paid, but because it's a family, I think the industry looks at it like, oh, it'll just be distributed. I don't have to pay them individually. Versus when you're hired for a role, you do. So that's probably where it comes from. Because I don't, now that you mention it, I don't know if I've heard of like children of like other family shows being paid directly. That'd be interesting to look into. I don't know.
Yeah, they usually are not paid directly. It's usually just the family or the adults, the parents being paid, and it is supposed to be distributed. And like that money, obviously, is like you could say it's what they use to take care of the family, which to an extent it is. But I think that if we looked at the way the money has come from TLC towards the sister wives, I feel like we could say a disproportionate amount has gone to Kody and Robin and their kids towards
Yeah.
maintaining their lifestyle, whereas Janelle's lived in shitty apartments and RVs and stuff, and Cody's in a mansion that Janelle helped him buy. I just don't think it's been equitable, and that's also why kids that are on TV shows, their parents are not paid and they're paid, and money is kept in trust because you can't actually rely on the parents to split it up evenly. It
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't seem to work. But I just think if kids are
So,
being exploited and we know this much about them, they should get paid.
oh yeah. But again, they're minors, and that's the problem is you can't really make that decision for yourself at that age. Your parents have to make it for you. So,
I
I
know
guess that
that's definitely part of the
double-edged
problem.
sword, right?
And I just feel
And
like
then in this case,
I feel
I
like
think
I'd feel a
Kody
little
made that
better
move.
about being exploited I think I'd feel better about being exploited if I got paid for it at least. But it doesn't really explain why the adult kids are participating in the show at all anymore. Why is McKelty giving birth on camera if she's not getting paid? Like, I don't know. I'm just horrified by what I just read. Because now she's fully deciding to do it.
I don't know. I feel like there's probably more to it than that. Because she would have had to have signed so many things to have that put on TV. Like, it would be very interesting to actually, which we'll never be able to do, like, look into that more contract-wise. Because she would have had to agree. She would have had to have gone, like, there's no way that she just didn't get any kickback from it. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely should get paid. I just know what my 2 seconds of Googling has revealed, but I don't think we'll ever know.
No. But also my other response to that is, then that's on you. If you agree as a grown adult to have birth on national TV for free, that's on you. Like, that's my other response. It's like, okay, then why'd you do it?
Definitely.
Like, you didn't have to. Why'd you do it? For the clout? Because I don't
maybe
know.
to keep attention on her for like LuLaRoe and Plexus, and I think she has a Patreon now too, her and Tony. So maybe she just was trying to drive traffic.
Maybe.
Which it probably works. I mean, it's cool that you can be on TV, I guess, but I don't know that I would want to give birth on television on the floor of my bedroom on TV and not get paid for it. Right? I don't think I would do it even if I got paid for it, though, so maybe I just can't relate.
Right? Oh my god, you couldn't pay me enough.
They're weird kids, a little bit.
So,
I mean, some people just want to be famous.
I know. Of Janelle's kids, do you have a favorite kid? Or has your favorite changed?
So my favorite in the early days was definitely Logan. I guess maybe he's still my favorite, but he hasn't been on the show in a long time, so I don't really know if I still like him now, which good for him. I think I also like him because he's not on the show, and I kind of respect that decision. But Gabe and Garrison have also really grown on me in the last couple of seasons because they were really front and center, and they filmed a lot over the 16, 17, 18, and just watching everything they went through and watching them defend their mom, I just think I became more endeared to them. I never really liked Maddie, I guess, but
oh my goodness, I love Maddie.
My least favorite. Well, that's fine. She can be your favorite, and she can stay
I like
my
adult Maddie. Maybe I should reword that. Like teenage Maddie, I was not the biggest fan of, but I do love adult Maddie. Because I do feel like she really grew up over the show. Because I feel like
so. Yeah.
teenage Maddie was like this, honestly, the stereotypical teenage girl, pouty, was the middle kid of a bunch of boys. Like, I think she was just moody. And then at that point, I loved Hunter and Logan. And I just thought that, like, they kind of ran the show. Yeah. I fully will admit, I thought Hunter was so cute. Thought he was so cute. I don't know why.
He's still cute. He's cute.
Still very cute.
Totally. He's cute. Yeah. I think Janelle has the best kids, so it's also tough. Like, is Maddie my least favorite Brown? No, but she's my least favorite of Janelle's kids. But Janelle has, like, the 6 best kids, probably.
Oh, for sure. I don't
know. I like Aspen, too, a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I think she has some of the best kids. But I think adult Maddie, I just really like who she kind of grew into being, like, this really kind-souled mom. I think her relationship with her husband, Caleb, is a little... The age difference is the only thing that I get weirded with. But I think they truly do love each other. And, like, the minute they kind of got together, they, like, stepped away. They moved away from the family. They're raising their family the way they want to, which I have a lot of respect for. Because when you grow up in a household like that, that can't be easy. Just be like, I'm going to up and move across the country and live the life that I want to live. So I have a lot of respect for that. I think that's tough when you have a family like this.
I feel like it just icks me out because I feel like he seems more like a father figure, especially when they actually are filming in the early days, because she hasn't been on the show in years either, so I don't really know what she's like now. I mean, sometimes she's like briefly featured, but we don't see her interactions really. They talk about her and she has a big social media. Yeah. And her kids are really, really cute. But I just think that she needed a new dad, basically. So she got a much older husband. And I'm just not into... They're just not my cup of tea. But I hope that they're super happy. I don't have anything specifically bad to say. I just would not be friends with them. And that's fine.
See, I don't know. Yeah, right. We'll never meet. But there's something about them. I just feel like that I see where you're coming from with the like father figure though, for sure. And then we have Logan.
Logan's great.
He also but like he got married to the only girl he's ever really, same girl on the show. They got married. He has a master's degree now. He's like living his life. And very much I don't think you could pay him to get back on the show. I really don't. Like he
definitely not.
Strategically evenly, like during like the family like episodes with like the holidays, you would see him in like the background, but like he was never really shown. It was always by like accident, like as a group. So I wonder if he was just like, I'm not signing anything anymore. Like, keep me out of it.
That's true. He's in the background of things, like Christine's wedding. He's in the background. You can kind of see him. And I just was watching season 18 and I had like a little jump scare because I saw him at Janelle's family Christmas. It's like, oh, Logan, but it's something that's self-filmed. So it's not even like the camera crew's there. It's just Janelle on her phone probably taking videos. So he's in them, but he's not, he's not going to do confessionals. He's not talking to the cameras. He's not,
Yeah, so he's around.
I did want to talk a little bit. Yeah. I did want to talk a little bit about their Christmas fight. Did you watch that? It's like it's season 18, but I don't know if
Janelle and Kody Christmas fight.
Yeah. I just felt like that was a big deal because they broke the fourth wall, which they hardly ever do on Sister Wives. And I just rewatched that last night and it is wild. They're actually fully screaming at each other and Kody's screaming like, tell the world, pointing at the cameras. It's bizarre for reality. I loved it.
I feel like we just like saw him crack, like,
and
like, just he really showed his true colors there, and I think it just pushed Janelle over the edge because again, like we've talked, she's very calm, cool, collected, but like. She also is not one that I would personally want to piss off. Like,
yeah, and she really did her cool much better than Kody did in that scenario.
Oh yeah, and
he just was screaming over her.
Oh yeah, like she couldn't get a word in edgewise, and he basically like, what was it? Was it gaslighting? Was that what he accused her of after like?
Yeah.
No, I told you what that word was, or whatever stupid.
He was like, "You're only saying I'm gaslighting you because I said you're gaslighting me," which is like the definition of gaslighting. Clearly, Kody has been on TikTok or something and learning about gaslighting because it became his buzzword for the season. Everybody was gaslighting him.
Gaslighting, trauma.
Ridiculous.
His life is so hard. Poor Kody.
It's so hard. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I did enjoy that fight.
Was amazing. I also think it was just one of those moments that like she had just had enough of him talking crap about the kids. And this is something that I feel like a lot of women have an issue with, where you can do it to me all you want, but like don't attack my kids. And I think she got to a point where you can talk to me like this all you want. But the minute he did bring up the kids at some point in that argument, and I think that just pushed her over the edge, and she was like, "No, I'm done. Like, you want to fight? Let's fight."
She referenced in the fight that he had told her, you either choose me or your kids. If you choose your kids, you won't have a husband anymore. Which is so abusive, so mean, so unreasonable. And yet he thinks that's totally something that you can just say to your wife and the mother of your children. They're adults. Bye-bye.
Right. And not to mention, like, if you're gonna like give her an ultimatum, at least do one that's a little bit like more difficult, because Janelle has very good relationships with all of her children and grandchildren. You're gonna have, do you really, how self-centered do you have to be that she's gonna pick you over her 6 children, 2 grandchildren, more grandchildren to come? Like, what?
It was such an unreasonable ask, and also just very impractical. And I don't know how he expected her to handle that situation. But when you have adult children, you don't just bark orders at them and expect compliance. You really shouldn't do that with your minor children either, but definitely with adult children, it's not going to work. They don't have to listen to you. So they're going to make their own decisions, and it's more about you're navigating relationships as all being adults, as opposed to I'm your father and I'm in charge, which is the only kind of relationship Kody's willing to have with them.
Yeah. And I think what's tough with her kids, with that exact thought of mine, is that she does have most of the boys. And she raised them to be what her image of like a strong man and leader is, which is not Kody. It is really more like Janelle. And it's those characters of you stand up what you think is right, you don't cave when you think something is wrong, speak up when you see something wrong. Like, you saw this in all of her kids, where Kody specifically would do something and those kids would speak up. I think every single one of them except Savannah, and in her defense, she was just too little. And towards the end, well, the more recent seasons, you see her starting to stand up and be like, this is wrong. And he didn't like it. And I think the boys, it was very easy for them to do, versus the girls, it's a little harder just with gender expectations in that house. But I think Kody had a hard time with that. When you have grown men standing up to you, Kody didn't like it.
Yeah. I mean, Kody's very emotionally immature. So when you have adult kids and you're immature, it's going to cause a friction. But like you said before, Kody's changed a lot and Janelle's been very consistent. And I think for me as a viewer and for them as the family, it's probably very hard to relate to Kody right now and much easier to understand where Janelle's coming from about almost everything. So, and they're also able to watch it back on TV, these edited versions of what's going on. So they're seeing all of the things that Janelle's saying on camera and that Kody's saying on camera, and can clearly see who is being more reasonable. And it's an easy decision for the kids, I think. I think it's been heartbreaking too. But
oh yeah,
Janelle's been steady this whole time, so you're gonna have her back.
Yeah, and I do feel for these kids, because you're mourning not only the parent that you used to have, but you're mourning the parent in general who's still there. They're just absent. Like, they, growing up, remember him being involved and caring and loving, and now has done like a 180. So he's still around, but they're watching him behave differently. But then giving that love to another child and not to them anymore. And I can't imagine how heartbreaking that would have to be to get to an acceptance that, well, this is just the new reality. And that's what happened with, I remember, I don't know if it was Garrison or Gabriel, but one of them, literally, there was an episode, they're like, I've kind of just accepted Dad's not around. He was just very like, well, this is just what it is now. And that's so sad to watch.
It is. And I feel like many things, I think that it would be better if we removed religion from it, because I think that if Kody was honest with himself, he would have just admitted that he really only wanted to be married to Robin, and he could have just had a more amicable separation with Christine and with Janelle without dragging it out for years and years and causing all of these additional hurt feelings. And I think it would have been better for everybody if they could have come to a resolution about that and not tried to force it. And then he could have just been co-parenting and been a father as opposed to trying to be a husband too, because that clearly wasn't working. So I feel like there was like some sort of religious obligation on both Janelle and Kody's parts where they felt like they couldn't just separate, even if it would have maybe been easier for everybody.
I think you're right about their marriage, but I don't know if I agree about him as a father to her kids, because I agree that the two of them forced this on and off for years. Like you said, they separated a couple times and they kept forcing coming back because divorce is not allowed in their faith. Ironically, Janelle is divorced, but that was pre-faith, so it's different. But
everyone in the family is divorced.
That once I know, right? It's only okay when it happens to me. I think you're right. Kody had just needed to accept that he wanted to be just married to Robin. But I think what would have happened, in my opinion, is if they did divorce, he would have disappeared regardless. I don't think he would have had any involvement with those kids if Janelle was married to him or not. I think it just would have been sooner. I think he would have disappeared a lot sooner if that had happened.
So do you think them staying together was actually beneficial to the kids?
I don't know if I'd use the word beneficial, because I think there was a lot of trauma that's going to have to be healed. But I think...
Or this was just inevitable.
It kept him present, maybe.
Maybe.
Like little Savannah, and she's not even that little anymore. She's a teenager, but she's a little in my head from when they started.
Yeah.
When that same Christmas, he didn't call his daughter. He didn't send her a present. It was, when I get to it, I'll get to it, basically. And I think that would have happened earlier in her life if they had separated before. And I'm not saying that this was a good thing, but I think it's less harmful for that to happen to a teenager than it is for like an 8-year-old. I think at least she still has good memories of her dad being around. Like, I don't know. It's going to be harmful no matter when it happens, but at least like she got to see some positives with her dad and like some good interactions. Versus if they split up the first time, like, she might never have even really known him.
I feel like maybe if they split up in Vegas or something, I feel like Kody would have tried with the kids. And I feel like I don't know though, obviously, like I can't understand his thinking on a lot of things, but to me, it just felt like some of his lack of involvement with the kids was punishing Janelle and punishing Christine more so than it was that he just didn't want to be around the kids. That's not how I saw it anyway. I feel like it was more of like a weapon he was using against the wives as opposed to truly just not caring about the kids at all. I mean, you could say that he didn't care that much if he's willing to use them as a pawn. Yeah, so it's all hard.
I definitely think it was a factor.
Narcissistic.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
because the world revolves around him.
The only people that are hurt. Oh, obviously, we're just living in it.
Yeah. Right.
Because I guess my fear is like. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying maybe we just can't relate to the mindset, and it's hard to think that way.
Oh, I absolutely. Because I guess too, like, he became just so involved and obsessed with Robin and her kids and their kids that, like, I wonder, like, they did separate in Vegas. Sooner or later, one of her kids was gonna have something going on that he would have taken priority over and just stopped showing up to stuff. That's why I feel like at least there was an obligation for him to show up with them being married. He would go to things, I guess not because he had to, but at least he was going. Because I do think he does care about them to a degree. But I think you're right. Like, I don't think there ever been, none of the kids I think are a priority. I think Kody's the priority.
Definitely agree with that. I think maybe if we could remove COVID, because that was such an excuse to separate from the kids. Like if he had just been normally absent, like kind of involved, kind of not involved, his like normal level of absenteeism, I think that Christine would have left, but I don't think that Janelle would have left. I think that Janelle would still be married to Kody and they would still be like doing their not together, not really together thing. I just think it came to a precipice
I think
more
that's
because of
probably
COVID.
true.
Well, not because of COVID, but because of Kody's manipulation and abuse of COVID, because he, I don't think, was really scared about COVID. I don't know, obviously, but I don't really believe it. I think that he just, it was convenient to capitalize on it.
And this is me just being petty. And again, I have no idea what they actually went through during COVID when Kody got sick. But it's very interesting to me where when they were recording him actively being sick, he was like, oh, I don't feel that bad. I have a little bit of fever, but I'm still up and doing all this stuff. And then like a couple episodes later, he's standing screaming at Janelle saying that he almost died. And I'm like, we're feeling very dramatic. Don't get me wrong. It absolutely could have felt like that. I don't know, but feels very dramatic.
I think it was very dramatic. I think that he is dramatic. And I also think he had a kind of a man cold situation where it's the first time anyone's ever been sick. Anyone's ever had a 99-degree fever or whatever ridiculous temperature he had. Like, I don't even think that counts as a fever. 1 degree. Like, did you just take a hot shower?
Right.
It's probably normal. Check again in 5 minutes. Like, that's not even something that you would be, I don't know. Maybe if you were an infant child, we would be concerned about that fever, but it's just, it's not a big deal. He probably felt sick, probably because he wasn't vaccinated and he had COVID. And I don't care if people are anti-vax or whatever, but I think it's a fact that your symptoms may have been reduced by having the vaccine. You elected not to get the vaccine and you contracted the virus, so you are going to be sick, which is exactly why you've been taking precautions this whole time to avoid getting sick, because having COVID sucks. And yeah, of course you had symptoms. I don't know why it's so shocking. Yeah. And most of the people in the family have had COVID too, so they also understand.
Right. He acted like he was the only one that got it in the family. Like him and Robin were the only ones. But I'm pretty sure Janelle had it, right? And like a couple of her kids.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You're yelling at the wrong people.
By the time he had it, most people had already had it. I already had it like twice by then. But I'm also a first responder, and I was in hospitals every day during the pandemic. And I just think that Kody was very isolated. And I made it through.
Oh, and you're actually
had a higher. I've had higher fevers from literally having a sunburn. Like, I just think, I don't know. It's like, maybe he was sick. I don't know. I'm sure he was sick, and that sucks.
Man cold. I think you're totally right.
Man cold.
Yeah. But again, like, him just taking shit out on Janelle and expecting her to take it. Like, no, absolutely not. I don't blame her.
Yeah, no one else is allowed to ever be sick. It's only Kody is sick. And that's the biggest deal. And precious little Robin, who was the only one that actually went to the hospital. So presumably was much sicker than Kody.
So she probably actually was like really sick. Like if you're going to the hospital for COVID, you have to be at a certain degree of sick, I feel. Because nobody wants to go
think that you are.
Right.
Like at least be so worried about it that you need to go to the hospital. I don't know how sick she was, but I believe that she thought she was very sick. It doesn't seem like she was admitted or put on oxygen or had any concerning tests, but she clearly was very concerned and her doctor was concerned. So, Kody, the fact that you're not sick enough to need to go to a hospital means maybe don't make it about you if your wife literally just had to go to the hospital. I don't know. It's a level of selfishness that's crazy. delusion.
But consistent with him, but so consistent. And again, Janelle, the godsend that she was able to put up with this for so long, because I would bash my head against the wall. Like,
Someone's had to get bashed against the wall, that's for sure. I don't know if it would be mine. But I would not be able to. I don't even think I could have a conversation with Kody, especially during his COVID rantings about everyone's lack of compliance, which those episodes were so boring, and it turned me into almost a COVID denier, which is crazy because I was very cautious during COVID, but I was very annoyed watching Kody because I felt like he was being so overdramatic. And it's not like they're in a city or somewhere extremely populated.
Oh yeah, they live in the middle of nowhere.
He had contradictory
I gotta admit,
rules
though,
that didn't apply to him.
Yeah, Hunter was probably one of my favorite like COVID episodes where they were all sitting outside on Coyote Pass doing this outdoors, social distancing, all just having a conversation. And he just, you could, at the beginning of it, he was like, all right, I'm going to try to fix the situation. Let's talk about it. And then by the end of the conversation, you could tell he was just over it. He's like, I'm just going to stir the pot. He's like, I don't even care anymore. Like, it was just like, but what else?
Yeah,
All
I mean,
right.
it's pointless.
He would just start saying shit because he was like, "What? I tried to reason with you. You weren't having it, so I'm gonna make it worse." Like,
yeah,
I do the same thing. But...
there was no amount of talking it out that was going to solve anything because it wasn't about COVID. It was about compliance. It was about being obedient. And I do think that if Janelle had agreed to complete submission and obedience, Kody would have kept her as a wife. I don't know if anything would have really changed in their dynamic or it would have improved for her at all, but I don't think that they would be separated or split up or whatever they are right now if she had just been like, you're right, I submit, I'm going to be obedient, you're correct about everything, you're in charge of this family. And she was not willing to do that.
Yeah, it was just so strange.
Yeah,
who knows?
Definitely.
Well,
I do think there's maybe one more thing we need to touch on, even though
you're probably going to
really
bring it up. Yep, you took my last thought for sure.
Mm-hmm. Garrison
did die of suicide in March of 2024, which
devastating.
I have their names written down next to each other, that's why.
It's okay. A lot of boys.
I know, a lot of boys, and they all look alike, which
they all look like
so
Janelle.
hard. They do all look like Janelle, thank God.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They have kept a lot of it very private, which I have a lot of respect for. I'm nosy, so I want to know all of the things. But as a family, I can understand why they wouldn't want to put a lot of information out. But he was young. He was 25.
I know. It's a real heartbreaking tragedy. Probably the saddest thing that's happened on this show, which is usually pretty silly. And I have just spent a good hour bashing Kody Brown, and I will continue to do so with every breath I have. But I felt really bad for him during this time, and I feel like he was blamed exclusively, and I think situations like this are really complicated.
Mm-hmm.
There's no easy one explanation for what happened.
And
it's just a tragedy.
When it comes to suicide, there's a lot of anger and I think a lot of hurt that people want to place and they don't know where to place it. And you should never, I'm a firm, like, no parent should bury their child. Like, that's devastating. And I can only imagine that they got to a point that their son joined the military. He wanted to be active. He wanted to serve his country. That it's one thing to accept in your brain there is always the possibility if your child is in the military, they're going to be killed serving their country. But you never imagine that your child is going to take their own life. And I can't even imagine the situation. And I wish them the most healing, and I hope that they find a place that they can be in acceptance, because it's so sad.
It's devastating, and I definitely cried upon finding out, and my heart immediately went out to Janelle and the siblings, the other moms, and even Kody. I feel like just genuine sadness for all of them, and I hope that they're supporting each other and taking care of each other, because this is like one of the worst things that can happen, and it happened. And it's gonna, I mean, I don't know what happens with the show from here on out, not that that's even the most important thing, but I saw that season 19 is going to be released, and I'm sure that was a lot of footage from prior, because that was so recent, but it's probably going to be really hard to watch knowing what's going to happen. It was hard to watch. I hadn't watched season 18 in a while, and it was hard to watch that. It's just, he's so young and he's so full of life, and he's clearly very, very loved. But from personal experience, the love can't always save everybody. You know, you can't love somebody enough to fix things. Run deep for some people, and it's nothing but sympathy over here.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I can't even imagine being Janelle. I personally wasn't really able to find any kind of statement that she made. She did post a picture of him saying happy birthday after he passed. But I know his sister, Madison, or Maddie, did make a comment saying that it wasn't a lack of love, there was some mental health issues, and it's important to talk about mental health and self-care. And she really, from what I've noticed, what she's been posting, has taken it that it needs to be talked about more. And then I think all of us can kind of say, like, it's something that people get uncomfortable talking about and nobody wants to talk about. And if you can give awareness that it's okay to get help, and it's worth it. But at the end of the day, it's up to that person to take that step. So it's got to be really hard being in that family right now.
The public attention has got to be brutal when something horrible like this happens. But it is an opportunity, like you said, to spread awareness and reduce stigma, because, I mean, you could say a lot of things about the Browns, but I think that they have always been a loving family that's been pretty normal, and that even if your family's not exactly like them, you can see bits and pieces, you can relate to them. And I think that this is probably the first time that a kid that we've watched grow up on reality TV has lost his life in this way. So maybe something good can come out of it, but I don't know. It definitely changes everything for the family forever. So I think that there was a time before Garrison passed, and then there's a time after, and I just hope it can be unifying, because it can go either way.
Yeah. And then I think it just also reiterates that social media is not real. Like, just because you see someone super happy and posting these amazing things doesn't mean that that is A, how they're feeling, or B, how their life actually is. A lot of it is an image. So I think that's also key here, where you look on his page, that's still up. He looks happy, thriving, but that doesn't always mean what's actually happening inside. So
yeah, I think that it's easy to think that we know these people, but we really don't know them at all, and we just see little glimpses of their lives and some of their worst moments probably, and there's probably a lot of good and bad that we do not see. And for sure, like, he was just adopting a kitten and putting it on Instagram, and people sometimes plan vacations or schedule things knowing that they're not going to actually do those things. And it's the brain is very complicated, and our lives are very complicated. And this is just a real reality. And statistically, like, his age group and his gender and his military service, and I have heard things that he had some issues with substance abuse, like, the statistics support that this could happen. There are other people in his demographics that this happens to, and nobody is safe from mental health struggles, and nobody is safe from suicide affecting their family. It can affect anybody's family, and it's a real reality. It's just very scary and obviously gutting.
Yeah. Well, I think it's,
that being said, I'm still gonna watch
one
season
of those
19,
things that
so.
I know it'll be very interesting how the show addresses it, because it's gonna get caught up with real time eventually.
Yeah, and this
like
is
you said, they
unprecedented.
typically film in advance. Yeah.
I think they're in 2022.
So eventually,
for season 19,
they'll have to talk about it. So I'd be
we'll have
curious
to
if
watch
they
the
jump
lead up.
it a little faster. Yeah. I'm wondering if they'll like cut some of it to bring that quicker into time, but I don't know. We will see. We
shall see. And you thought we didn't, and I thought we didn't have anything to talk about with Janelle, but I guess we did.
I know. I feel like a lot of it is just us praising Janelle and being like a normal person.
Well, we did start by saying that she's our favorite.
She is, which I have no shame in saying. I'm sorry. I love you all, but Janelle, my girl. I might just actually pay that $75 just to talk to you.
I know. I mean, she's my A1 day one. She was my favorite from 2010. So I think that she's earned her place. Yeah. But yeah.
Well,
do you have any final thoughts?
Any last thoughts for our favorite? Oh, well, no.
Oh, wow.
Two birds. Two minds.
Yeah.
It's as if we're Kody.
You're gaslighting me.
Being so on top of our... I know, I'm so sorry. No, I'm not, actually. That's not good gaslighting techniques. I'm sorry. All right, I'll work on it for next time.
Reverse it on me. That's what you gotta do. Man. I think I just, I hope the very best for her, and I'm looking forward to season 19.
I know, and her single life. I want to see what she does now.
Yes. Waiting for the Janelle wedding special.
Oh, that would be interesting. It would be interesting. All right. Well, that was Janelle.
Until wife number 3.
Until wife number 3. Bye.
Bye.